Jeremiah 29, verse 1, then verse 4 to verse 7. These are the words of the letter that the prophet Jeremiah sent from Jerusalem to the remaining elders among the exiles, and to the priests, the prophets, and all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had taken into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, to all the exiles whom I have sent into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Take wives and have sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, that they may bear sons and daughters. Multiply there and do not decrease. But seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. For thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, do not let the prophets and the diviners who are among you deceive you, and do not listen to the dreams that they dream, for it is a lie that they are prophesying to you in my name. I did not send them, says the Lord. They build a fire, and the father begins to feed into it papers he has brought from earth. It is a line from Ray Bradbury's story, The Million-Year Picnic, which later became the last chapter of his science fiction novel, The Martian Chronicles, published in 1950. The book offers us a vision of planet Mars, where people already live, adapted to the conditions there, and a Mars to which human beings from Earth arrive. It has become a place of refuge from Earth. In the last chapter, a spaceship brings a family of people from Earth, just as our own planet nears the final end of its final war. They huddle around a fire. Up in flames go government bonds, deeds, business graphs, and stock reports, various books and pamphlets, including one entitled Religious Prejudice, an essay, and another called Problems of Pan-American Unity. We are burning a way of life, the father explains to his children. Science ran too far ahead. It gave us all these gadgets, rockets, and helicopters, and it's wars that killed the earth. That's what we ran away from. Last of all, he drops into the fire a map of the world. It wrinkles and burns to warm ashes, which drift away in the thin Martian air. They look into the sky to see Earth explode in fiery annihilation. The million-year picnic has begun. The story gives us Ray Bradbury's personal view that life can be better, indeed, life can be redeemed, by changing our location and by destroying the artifacts of an old and hurtful life. Evil lies for him in a place, in things, in practices, whereas hope for the future lies in escape from that place, in abandoning our gadgets and making a new beginning where the old life is unknown. It's science fiction, of course, and part of what it evokes is a world where anything can happen and anything does. The world of science fiction is not governed by the same rules that prevail in our world, and perhaps that is the appeal of it to restless hearts and minds that want to believe that a new start, in a new place, in a new life, is possible. We like to believe that change is possible. We live in a society that believes in change, and especially in the kind of change we call progress. Our culture tells us that if you are not happy with your life, change something, change anything, your job, your house, your spouse, your name, your face. You can change any of it. You can change all of it, all at once if you like. And while few of us are contemplating a trip to Mars anytime soon, who of us has not been tempted to change the most fundamental facts of our lives. One day you look around at your life and you realize that things have not turned out the way you had meant them to. You are not where you thought you would be at 37 or 49 or 82. There are relationships that you cannot repair. People you have loved are gone. Your youth has slipped away and will not return. I have noticed a curious thing nowadays. When I complain to my doctor about aches and pains, he now shrugs his shoulders and says, "Well, you're not a spring chicken anymore." I want to say, "Don't use that medical jargon on me, just give it to me straight." Your youth is slipping away. You cannot get it back. You're coming to terms with the sad and simple fact that in life there is no do-over. Some of what we wanted in our lives has not happened and never will. All of us live with disappointment and pain. We don't parade it out in front of the world for everyone to see, but it is there just the same. We carry with us regrets, failures, reminders that we are oh so human, reminders of our finitude. All of us live under the reality of things that we cannot change. Jeremiah wrote a letter about such things. The prophet's letter was addressed to a people in exile. Their homeland had been invaded, their holy city lay in ruins, their temple had been destroyed. When the fighting and the killing and the chaos had finally died down, the people were taken captive, hauled out of their homes, and marched to Babylon, 900 miles away. They lived in camps as exiles and outcasts with no hope of rescue and no relief in sight. And some of the songs and poetry that came from this dreadful and dark experience are profoundly beautiful and profoundly sad. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, and there we wept when we remembered Zion. On the willows there we hung our harps, for there our captors asked us for songs, and our tormentors asked for mirth, saying, "Sing us one of the songs of Zion." But how could we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? The children of Israel are foreigners in a foreign land. The essential meaning of exile is that you are stuck in a place where you don't want to be. They are homesick, and they are singing the blues. To the exiles, Jeremiah wrote a letter about living with the things that you cannot change. Build houses and live in them, he says. Plant gardens and eat their produce. Take wives and become fathers of sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons and give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear sons and daughters. And seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will have welfare. It is a surprising and strange word for difficult times. What do you do in the face of things you cannot change? You settle in. You put down roots. You tend to relationships. You learn to love the details of your meantime. There were other prophets, contemporaries of Jeremiah, self-appointed prophets, who had been going around telling the people that things were about to change. They were fueling false hopes with false promises. And such words only served to keep them sighing over the land they longed for, spinning their wheels while they waited for their real life to begin. Jeremiah would have none of it. Do not listen to the dreams they dream, he told them. Things are not changing anytime soon. You're going to be here for a very long time. This is your life. Jeremiah sounds a discordant and hard word for people in difficult circumstances. But the hard, true word at such times turns out also to be the most hopeful one. Face the facts. Come to terms with the things that you cannot change. Then live the life you have, not the one you wish for. Live where you are, Jeremiah tells the exiles, not where you wish you were. Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat their produce. Is there a more life-affirming word than this? Build, live, plant, eat. Make a life right where you are. Nourish the life right where you are. Inhabit the life that you have been given, not the one you long for. Quit waiting for your real life to begin. Stop raging against everything you cannot change. Stop dreaming about someday and start living the life that you have. Maybe you remember that movie from a few years ago, As Good as It Gets. Jack Nicholson won an Oscar for his performance as Martin Udall, a man suffering from obsessive-compulsive disorder. He is struggling to keep his life in the kind of order he wants it to be in. And after barging into his psychiatrist's office demanding to be seen, he stops in the waiting room and looks around at the sad-looking patients waiting there, hoping some treatment will change their lives. He looks at all of them and asks them, what if this is as good as it gets? What if it is? What if the basic facts of you, your family, your job, your opportunities, your limitations and liabilities, what if all of these things are not going to change in any fundamental way or in any substantial way that you've been hoping for? What if this is the life you get? Are you okay with that? Can you live with that? Of course, in the church, our problem may not be that we want to embrace the science fiction of a future and a new start. There may not be many dreamers among us. Our problem may be the opposite. That is, we forgo the present and immerse ourselves in a kind of nostalgia for the past. We pine away for the good old days, which, as near as I can tell, was 1955. A few years ago, my high school graduating class was planning a 25th anniversary reunion. I started receiving unsolicited invitations and information for the 25th anniversary celebration months in advance. At the time, a woman by the name of Michelle was on the organizing committee for the reunion, and she kept sending me emails. She called it a once-in-a-lifetime event that should not be missed. Michelle, I remembered, was a cheerleader back in high school, and in her emails she still sounded like a cheerleader. Hyperbole. The class of 1985, she said, was of course the best class ever. I treated her emails like so much spam. Delete, delete, delete. Finally, she addressed an email to me personally. Dear Rob, I noticed you haven't purchased your tickets for the class reunion yet. Everyone will be there. You don't want to miss it. It's funny, I don't remember Michelle paying much attention to me in high school. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. I wrote her back, Dear Michelle, why on earth would I want to go back to high school? I barely escaped the first time. I remember high school, and it wasn't the good old days. We had bad hair, bad skin, tight jeans, tacky clothes, and we were oh so self-absorbed. This is to say nothing of the music we listened to. Disco music. Why would I want to relive disco music? Thanks for the kind invitation to the reunion. Please accept my regrets. Now, some of you may have had a wonderful time in high school. Maybe you remember it like the musical Grease, and you love these reunions. And I say, more power to you. But even so, what kind of message would we give 18-year-olds if we said high school is as good as it gets and it's all downhill from here? 18 years old and you're all washed up. These days, I'm less inclined to believe that the good old days were all that good. What if these days, right now, with all of their challenges, what if these are the good old days? Jeremiah says, live the life you have now. Don't wait for your life to begin. Put down roots where you are. Don't wait for the people in your life to be what you wished they were. Tend to the relationships you have today. Learn to love the contours of your circumstances. Seek the peace of the place where you live and pray for it. In our lives and in our world, there are things we can change, and things we should change, and things we must change. But every one of us is captive to something we cannot change. And even here, and maybe especially here, God is at work. The question isn't, where is God in our lives? The question is, where are we? Can we relinquish the wishing, the pining, the raging that keeps us from showing up for our own lives? Build your house and live in it. Plant your garden and eat from it. Tend to your relationships. Live where you are, and learn to love where you are, and seek its peace, and pray for it. Surely that is enough for now. Surely that is enough for a lifetime.